Hey everyone, today we're ranking all of the Moris in Dead by Daylight based on how I feel about them. So buckle up, this one's gonna be a fun one. All right, now first up we have Trapper. Okay, I mean, Trapper, it's pretty brutal, right? They're all going to be. This is why it's kind of a weird thing to rank. But all that to be said, it's of all the Moris, it's extremely basic. You know, it's first-person perspective. It's obviously early on in the game's development, so it's understandable that they would be a little more basic early on. But it's just kind of him using his M1 weapon to go to town on Blight there. So I just, it's not that interesting. It doesn't even involve his special ability at all. So to me, he's going to become the baseline at D. I don't think there are too many that are less interesting than that one. So I'm going to put him down in D. And we'll kind of start it off that way. Might move him up if I do find there might be one that I would say is a little more basic and less interesting. But that being said, I think he's good in D. All right, next up we have Wraith. Okay. I mean, his is, I'm going to put it in with D tier with Trapper as well. Super basic, again, very early on in the game's development, so understandable. I'm not complaining about it. I don't find it all that interesting. It has the extra bit of the survivor trying to crawl away and him dragging them, but I don't think that bumps it up from D tier for me. I think, it's just okay. So we're going to put it down in D. All right, next up we have Hillbilly. Okay, Hillbilly's is definitely the most graphic so far. I think it's going to be bumped up just slightly because it is, to me, more interesting. This is a weird thing to rank. I don't exactly know. It's not like any of this is all very brutal, so it's a weird thing to rank. But we're going to put him up in C because it's more involved, I guess. I don't know. I don't exactly know what I didn't set out a criteria when I started this out, but it's slightly more interesting, but it's still pretty basic. So we'll put it in C. So there you go. All right, next up we have Nurse. All right, well, I think hers is actually more interesting. I think hers is the most interesting so far. We'll put it in B. And the reason why is because, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, there are some gaps in my DBD lore knowledge, so I could be wrong on this. But if I'm understanding right, doesn't her character, before she's taken into the fog, have a bit of a mental break and start just doing that to patients, thinking that she's helping them? And that's kind of how I interpret her Mori, is she thinks she's helping the survivors by ending them, basically. So you can kind of see that when she's like caressing the face and whatnot. And it's real creepy, and it's very fitting for her, I think. So I'm going to move her up in B. I think there's others that are going to be more involved and more interesting down the road, but I'll put hers up in B. I feel comfortable with that. So there you go. All right, next up we have Myers. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because the shadow he makes at the end of that Mori is just real jacked. It's kind of goofy. Anyways, all that to say, I'm going to put him in B as well. I think it's very fitting towards his character, and definitely shows off his insane strength and terrifying ability. And it's this is going to be a weird way to describe it, but it's very up close and personal. So there's, you know, they do a lot with the first person perspective on that one. So, I mean, yeah, we'll put him in B. There you go. All right, so normally when I play this game, I just kind of think of it as more of a video game version of Tag, right? I don't think of it as being too graphic or intense. That being said, I do forget, though, how intense this game can be until I watch all the Moris back to back to back to back. So if you're feeling like me right now and you need a little bit of a mental palate cleanser, if you will, I figured, why don't we just every 5 Moris or so have a puppy break? So here you go. Here's our first puppy break. All right, next up we have Hag, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the first third-person Mori. All right, so Hag is, I was right. It was the first third-person Mori, and I'm gonna put her in A, because it is just brutal. Yeah, she's just going to town on the survivors there and harvesting organs, I guess. I don't know. Golly, it's such a weird one to try to describe because it's not like any of this is good. It's all, I just think in terms of like shock factor, hers is a well done one so far and the most interesting so far. Definitely the most shocking as she like rips out organs and consumes them. So we'll put her in A. So next up we have Doctor. I mean, all right, it's another first-person one. Again, I'm not, with the exception of a select few, I'm not a big fan of the first-person ones. So seeing how much more interesting Hags became, and then we go back to first-person with Doctor, and then with Huntress here in a second, I think the third-person tends to be more interesting. That said, it does fit his character very well, and it does have the extra effect of, you know, kind of the, you know, he rolls over Dwight, and Dwight's face is smoking after he's been electrocuted. So, I mean, there's a lot of detail to it. So I think it's definitely, it's got more detail and more effort than the C or D tier ones. I don't feel it's more interesting than B tier. So I'm gonna leave him in B tier. There you go. All right, next up we have one of my favorite characters. We've got Huntress. Hers is absolutely brutal. I'm probably being biased here because, like I said, she is one of my favorite characters, but I'm going to put her in A. She's going to be one of the rare ones that I think might not be helped by the first-person perspective, but not hurt as much as I feel some of the other ones might be. That said, I have seen the mobile version having some other Moris or a leaked Mori of hers that I think was significantly better, and I wish it would come to the mainline game. But that being said, I think hers is definitely very brutal. I'll put it up in A. So I feel like Huntress's has more of a shock factor than even Doctor's. Sorry, that was a bad pun. That being said, I think hers is quite a bit more brutal and involved than some of the others so far. So I'm gonna put her up in A. And again, that's probably because I really like Huntress, so I'm automatically gonna be biased towards her Mori. But there you go. It's my tier list. So we'll roll with my bias, I guess. So there you go. All right, next up we have everybody's favorite camping enthusiast, Bubba. Well, okay, that one was, the hammer smack first got me. Whoa, okay. How is she still conscious? I don't know. That being said, his is definitely, they did a good job differentiating it between Hillbilly, because obviously they're kind of the same character, more or less. But I think they did a good job differentiating his Mori from Hillbilly's and making it maybe slightly bit more interesting and involved. So we're gonna move him up into B. You know, still first person. That's okay. It's not like horrible. I know I'm saying that as a negative quite a bit, but I just think they can do more with third person. But they definitely figured out a way to distinguish it and make it unique and make it a little more intense than maybe Hillbilly's was. So there you go. I'll put him in B. All right, now we have Mr. Dreamman himself, Freddy. Okay, that one's pretty brutal as well. I think that, again, the third person helps out quite a bit, and I really like this one. As again, it's a weird thing to say, I like this, you know, survivors getting ended in morbid ways, but in the context of the game, I think this one's one of the more interesting ones. So I'm gonna put him in A. I think he deserves to be in A. I like how he kind of like disappears behind the survivor. The survivor has no idea what's going on, and then, you know, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. The hand, that is. Well, I guess it comes out of somewhere, the survivor. So yeah, I feel like he deserves to be up in A. Next up, moving on to Pig. So here we go. That's it? That was boring. That seems like a backward step to me. Okay, either I've never seen Pig's Mori before, or it's so basic I just completely forgot about it, because that was awful, comparatively. I would probably put that worse than Trapper and Wraith, to be honest. I expected more, quite a bit more. So I'm not going to move Trapper and Wraith up, but she's at the bottom of D tier. And if we had a lower tier, I'd probably put her there, which is sad because I love Pig. Come on. It's like they worked so hard on the head traps that they're like, oh yeah, we have to do a Mori. What do we do? I don't know. And they did that, apparently. Oh well. All right, next up we have Clown, and fun fact about Clown, his is actually slightly different based on whether the survivor is male or female. So, we're gonna look at both. Okay, so if you didn't catch it, it's different based on which finger he takes, and this one's disgusting to me. Like, just I mean, it's, you know, he just stomps on them until you hear the back crunch, and then it just the guttural like that he does after he sucks on the finger, and just the whole concept of him doing that is oh, this one's gross, which is fitting for him. So again, how do I, because this isn't really like, do I like them? Like, this is all survivors being ended in the worst possible ways possible. So it's weird to describe it as I like it. That being said, I suppose I'm going by interesting, and because it has the double based on which survivor you're actually mooring, and just how much goes into it, and how gross it is. I guess I would say it's pretty interesting, and so I'd have to put it up into A. I think there's ones that I will rank higher as more grotesque and interesting, but I think I'll leave him in A, but he's definitely getting up there. They're getting a little more intricate, and there's a lot more effort being put into them. All right, next up we have Spirit. Okay. I like hers. It's, man, she just goes to town, doesn't she? And it's kind of cool how she keeps phasing in and out. And then I just think Spirit's a cool character to begin with. So I'm going to put her up into A. Again, I think there's going to be ones that I will rank higher in a little bit, but I like hers a lot. So there you go. All right, next up we have Legion. Okay, so Legion, I'm gonna put him in B, or them in B. So I think there's some neat elements of the fact that because they really are just human beings, they're not like empowered with any sort of extra entity power. So the survivors probably stand the best chance of fighting against them in one-on-one. And so you actually see the survivor fight back a little bit and try to dodge and, you know, actually push back. So that's kind of a neat little add-on to it, and they didn't just have it be where Legion just completely overpowers them. That being said, I mean, in general, Legion's kind of a basic character, and it seemed kind of basic Mori. So I'm not going to rank it higher than B, but I think it's, again, probably helped it. If it had been first person, I'd probably rank it down in C. But I think, again, being third person helps make it somewhat more cinematic, maybe. And that's kind of what we're looking for with Mori, I think. So there you go. I'll put him in B. Put them. I keep saying him, but I know Legion's a group of 4. So there you go. All right, next up we have my main, Plague. Excited to see this one. Okay. Yep, properly gruesome. Definitely, if you have a fear of throwing up, not the Mori you want to see. Okay, bias, yes. I'm putting her in S. I think she's got a very interesting Mori. It's very gross, and that's part of what I love about Plague. So it, you know, just makes me love the Mori. I can't imagine her Mori being anything else. So it's perfect for her. Yeah, it's properly gross. It's very gross. I'm not gonna lie. It's so gross. Okay. All right, next up we have Ghostface. Okay, so I would put him up until the very end. I would put him on par with Legion, but I'm gonna put him up into A just because of the camera and the photo opportunity. Like that's the word I was gonna use was hilarious. It feels so wrong to use positive adjectives to describe a very, very negative thing, but I think it's one of the more interesting ones because of that little bit. So we'll put him up in A. There you go. All right, next up we have Demo, or the Demogorgon. Oh, that one is properly brutal and definitely, I feel like I'm watching the show. It's even more gruesome than the show. That's, wow, okay. So we'll put him up in S. I think it's perfect, fitting for his character, and definitely intense. So we'll put him up in S. There you go. His is an interesting one for sure. There you go. All right, next up we come to Oni. That one was, oh, okay. Yeah, the ripping of the tongue out of the face. Oh, okay. And then just absolutely decimate him with his big old bat thing, whatever that's called. He's going up in S too. Oh, all right. Golly, these are rough. All right, next up we have Deathslinger. Putting that one in A tier. Just the oh yeah, these are all rough. Like just, yeah, the spearing him from behind, lifting him up, and then firing it through his face. Oh golly, these are gruesome for sure. And yeah, I'll put that one in A. I think Deathslinger's an underrated character in general, so it's nice to put him up higher in a tier list. All right, next up we have Executioner, or Pyramid Head. I would say his is properly disturbing, very fitting for what I imagine Pyramid Head doing. It's terrifying. So we'll put him up in S with the others. There you go. These get better as they go. Better in terms of worse, in terms of how gruesome they are. Anyways, here we go. Is it time for a puppy break yet? Oh gosh. Next up we have Blight. The Blight Storm must do different to a survivor than it does to a killer, or the killers are just tougher and can deal with it more, because it seems like it's more like destroying her body, whereas, you know, with someone like Nemesis or Executioner, it actually just makes him somehow more jacked, I guess. I don't know. But Blight somehow survived. I don't know if you call that surviving, but I don't know. So anyways, it's interesting. Somebody who knows the lore better than I do probably can explain that, but his is interesting. I don't know if it's S tier interesting to me, but I'll put it up in A tier. It's very fitting for him and very involved for the design, I guess. I don't know. So we'll put him up in A. Again, I don't have like a defined criteria for that. I know sometimes I come in with a really defined set of criteria. This one I'm just going off my gut feeling because I don't know how else to rank these. This one's a ride. So there you go. All right, and next up we have the twins. All right, Victor makes that S tier for me. Well, I'll tell you in the moment that makes it S tier for me. It's the, you know, she takes out the survivor, Charlotte does, and then she just kind of looks at Victor and gives him the nod. And for some reason, I just find that interesting. I was gonna say cute, but it's not at all. Yeah, all that to say, I think they're S tier to me. I think that's a good one. Yeah, okay. So weird. All right, next up we have Trickster. Wow, I've never noticed before. The survivor's still alive by the end of that one, because you can still hear her. You can still hear her, and that's disturbing. Anyways, I don't know. I don't get the physics with the knife coming straight down on that last one. Hey, hold on, let me watch this again. Okay, I now understand what's happening. I'd never caught this before. I'm gonna put him up in S, and I'm gonna explain. First of all, it's creepy that the survivor's still alive throughout the whole thing, and including up to the very, very end. It's got, you know, him throwing his little picture card, and I never understood the knife coming straight down. He throws that one first. He chucks it up in the air, and that's the one that lands at the end, is the first one he throws. And I'd never caught that before. And that's just, it's an extra bit of flair for a character that's known for his flair, right? So I think it's perfect for him. I think it's a very interesting Mori, and there's a lot done, a lot of little nuance to that one. So we're gonna put it up in S, I think. Yeah, I think so. All right, next up we have Nemesis. Oof. So his is going in S as well. I just, for one Resident Evil nerd, love Nemesis. That being said, his is properly brutal for the type of character that he is. I mean, he's just an absolute powerhouse, and there's a lot involved in that. And that's why they've come so far in terms of stylizing these than the original, the Trapper, for instance. Like that could have been Trapper's Mori. That would work for Trapper just as well as it would work for Nemesis, except for the whole tentacle thing. But all that to be said, they're putting in so much more effort into these and making them with a lot more style, I guess. And that's just perfect for Nemesis. And so I'm putting it up in S. I think it's an interesting Mori that's perfect for the character. So there you go. All right, next up we have Pinhead. That one is brutal. Just, yeah, all the hooks and just the voice line, and I mean, it's so good. So we'll put it up in S. They've done such a good job with these later ones. So yeah, there you go. It's so disturbing. Now, real quick before the next puppy break, if you're enjoying the video as much as you can enjoy a video like this, go ahead and hit that like button to let me know. Comment down below really helps me out as well. We are trying to push towards that 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you would be willing to help me reach that goal and haven't already subscribed, would you consider hitting that subscribe button for me? Thanks. Now to some puppies. I don't know if you guys know or not, but I play a lot of horror games, but I don't do a lot of horror movies, and these are very movie-esque. So if I seem squirmish, that's that's probably why. But all that to say, next up we have Artist. Yeah, so this one gets points for style. There's the injection into his face with the entity-infused ink, and that like busts out of his chest into the single crow that then becomes the multiple crows. This one's a very interesting and involved one. I'm gonna put her up in A. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's quite S tier, but that's just pure subjectivity coming from me. I have no basis to put it S or A. It's definitely a good one, but I think I'm going to go A because I find the others more interesting that are in S tier. So there you go. All right, next up we have the Onryo. So somehow, to me, this is the least creepy thing about her in the game, but that's not to say it's not creepy. Just the music, the scratchy violin, the sound of the bones, like just, oh, it's so, yeah, hers has gotta be S tier. The sound is just so disturbing. So for the sound alone, it's S tier. Golly, it's like, oh, okay. Right, we're getting close to the end with the Dredge. Oh, the Dredge. Oh, okay. His is atop the S tier. To me, it is very disturbing, as his character should be. The only part that gets me is he's got that like limp noodle arm thing that is his M1 attack that I still to this day do not understand how that thing does any damage to survivors. So they've got the part where he hits with that, and it cracks me up when I see it. But everything else about it is just it's very intricately done. You've got just the different things, tools and stuff coming out, and then it's like you think it's close to over, and then it's like, no, these two like claws come out and spear him, and then, you know, absorb him into himself. And so he's supposed to be just like a mass of all his victims, right? Its victims. So the fact that it actually takes the survivor as one of its new pieces of itself, I guess, is just, it fits the character. It's properly disturbing and distressing. And so I'm gonna go with S tier for the Dredge. All right, and now our latest character, Wesker.
Let's finish this.
All right, I don't know if it was just the time I recorded this, but some of the sound just seemed off. I don't know. You guys let me know if you think the same thing. Not necessarily with that clip, because that could have just been the networking or something like that. But if you've seen his Mori in-game for yourself, is there some sort of audio desync there? Because it doesn't seem like the audio is quite fitting to me. So, but again, that could just be my recording. So I'm not gonna rank it because of that. And even if it is a wider issue, it could just be an actual issue that they could correct later on. But as far as the design of the Mori itself, I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I'm not going to put it S tier. First time I saw it, I thought it was maybe a little more gruesome than when I've seen it subsequent time. It feels like when he hits the ground with that huge mass of his tentacle arm thing, and then the tentacles come out through the ground and into the survivor and out of the survivor, they feel like they get smaller to me, and just I would have expected something like a huge tentacle or something to come out of the survivor, but instead it's like these little worm things. Anyways, all that to say, it's not quite as stunning to me, distressing as maybe some of the other S tier ones. So I'll put him in A tier. I think it's good. Don't get me wrong. I like it enough. There are my picks for where to rank these Moris. Now it's interesting because I've got a ton in A tier and S tier, and there's really only those few that I feel badly about. Like I really think both Hillbilly, Trapper, Wraith, and Pig need some sort of rework to their Moris. They could be better. They could be a lot better, especially with what they're able to do now. So it would be great to see like a mid chapter or something where they go back and address those killers' Moris. I would like that. Other than that, I really like a lot of what they've done in the game. It just a little distressing to watch them all back to back to back to back to back. I think I'm gonna need to go watch something happy for a bit, but all that to say, this is how I feel about the Moris in Dead by Daylight. Let me know down below which ones are your favorites. As always, you have been awesome. Stay awesome. Go watch something happy, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.